So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And we're back again. I said we'd come back again because obviously I did the post-match podcast in my car, and I didn't have Paddy's opinion on it and how the game went as well. So I thought we'd kind of bring a small bit more professionalism to it, back into our normal studios as we normally have. And obviously I'd like to get Paddy's opinion on the Wolves game, or the game which I keep on and have been all week, even prior to the game, calling the West Ham game. I don't know what it is. I just have a mental block to that Wolves game at the weekend, and I wanted to relive the West Ham game. And thankfully I didn't, because we won 2-0 as opposed to drawing 1-1.
Yeah. What was that about professionalism?
Yeah. That's it. Well, you can dress up a pig, like that's what we're doing for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Look, well, obviously, first and foremost, I'm absolutely delighted with the 3 points. We said beforehand, by any means necessary, get the 3 points. The more of these we throw onto the board, the more comfortable it gets towards the back end of this season. Especially with the euphoria of Man United throwing away 2 points in Fergie time as well, which was lovely, and a nice little twist of fate after them really rubbing their nose in it and putting on their social media that they've scored the winner in injury time, and then they draw. So yeah, so that made it a little bit more sweeter. But yeah, I think some demons are exercised as well by beating Wolves at home. They've had our number for a while, and look, we're by far and away the biggest club in the Midlands now, and the best team in the Midlands. So we got to keep going. The gap between us and Man United has got bigger. Pity. The only thing that would have made the weekend even better is if Luton had held on and got a point against Spurs. But it is what it is. We've held on to 4th place, and I do believe the 5th place will still be enough. So we've done exactly what we needed. Even though, why are people still talking about XG?
Paddy, for everybody who knows this podcast, and I'm gonna hijack this part because I've been a massive proponent, and I always am of statistics, looking at statistics, but there's one I just cannot get my head around. And I can't get my head around how by it's just been welcomed in with open arms by pundits, by managers, by whatever. It's the greatest cop-out clause of all time. Is XG. Yes, at the end of the year, when you look back at it, it can be looked at over a big sample set. But if someone turns around and says to you in a game, oh, that XG was this or XG was that, give me a break. Absolutely give me a break. Their XG was as high as it was because Ait-Nouri misses from 6 yards out from a brilliant save by Emi Martinez. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. And Kansa's goal goes in when from the angle that he was at, and Diaby was outside the box. Like nobody in their right mind watches that game and says the Villa didn't control that game. Well, specifically once they went 1-0 up. Nobody. So XG is a nonsense. It can be, you take it over the course of a year, yes, but over the course of a game, and specifically over the course of a half, I can't get on board with that crack. I really can't.
I think whoever invented that is giving a get-out clause to certain managers and coaches. And look, I've said it before. I've sat in coaches and seminars and had a Premier League manager call it the Loch Ness Monster. It doesn't exist. It's stupid. It's pointless. Why are people still talking about it? And yet Premier League managers are still talking about it. But anyway, I
love this one as well, Gaz Oaks. Field tilt. Yes, field tilt is another one. I'm still yet to get anybody to absolutely explain to me what field tilt is and how it's relevant to the game of football. Yeah, that's a good one, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, I've never been in a stadium where the pitch has been tilted, apart from Motherwell. It's the only one I've ever been in with the pitch on the side of a hill. Maybe it's not that way anymore. It's a few years since I've been there, but I've never been in a stadium where the pitch was on the side of a hill. So that was the only pitch tilt I've ever seen. But look, we're we're talking about statistics. The most important statistic is the one in the top corner of the screen when the referee blew the final whistle and we won the match 2-0. Obviously, it was a competent performance. For 20 minutes, I thought we felt our way around the game. We didn't commit too much, and then once we got that, not a ropey 20 minutes, I believe it was just feeling our way around. And once we got that out of the way, there only ever looked like one winner after that for me.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Wolves were always going to struggle to score goals with the team they had out, and that's not a slight on Wolves. I think every Wolves player, every Wolves fan would probably admit that as well. You know, starting an 18-year-old up top, his first game in the Premier League. I don't even know if he got double-digit touches the ball in the game. And that's not criticizing him either. You know, it's tough to do that. It's very, very tough. Like, it's not often that happens. The player comes in and hits the highlights, and you know, it seems like it happens more often than it actually does. And I couldn't really move it. Bar Sarabia up top, you know, their midfield worked incredibly hard, but they ran out of steam, you know, by half time. I thought, and once we got the upper hand, as you say, with that goal, then there was certainly no coming back from that from Wolves. I didn't think, and we didn't look like we were being threatened really as well, which is good because this team has a penchant to let teams have a purple patch specifically after half time, and that didn't happen in this game. And Villa came out and they looked like they wanted a small bit more control and a small bit more. And look, I know once again people will look at the statistics again and say that there was more big chances created. Yeah, they had all this stuff, and they are statistics I do have a mass in. You know, I do think that they are relevant, but you know, also you have to look at the game and see what you see in front of yourself as well. And what you see in front of yourself is, yes, Villa's 2 goals, where one was a thunder bastard from outside the box that would still be going if there wasn't, as I said, that would have burst through the stand if there wasn't a net there, which I completely know how silly that sounds, and I did roar that out when the goal went in, but and then the other one was a cross come shot, whatever way you want to look at it. So
I would call it an exquisite finish.
Yeah, I knew you would. being part of the fullbacks union, Paddy, I knew you were going to call that one an exquisite finish for sure.
And before you move on from Leon Chouameni, I really believe that the young fella busted a gut throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
And I think he did himself proud. And just to clarify, he had 16 touches of the ball.
Was it?
Two touches in our box, and 2 important headed clearances as well when the chips were down. So he wasn't all that bad. But yeah,
no, and that's that. I wasn't having a go at him at all.
No,
it was just highlighting. I suppose.
I get what you're saying. It was a
struggle.
I thought it was a strange decision to play him up there more or less on his own, with very little help around him, especially when they were under the cosh. He found, as you've seen there with the 2 headed clearances, he was back defending all the set pieces and whatever. So it was a tough one for him to have his first start in the Premier League like that. But in fairness to him, he did himself proud, and isn't nothing for us to worry about now because we've finished and saw the back end of Wolves for the foreseeable. And as you say, two very different goals. Bit lucky with the touch that diverted it into the path of Diaby for the hit, and then very lucky with the with the chip from Ezri Konsa, which I've no doubt in my mind he was trying to cross the ball. So sometimes you get lucky with them ones, sometimes you don't. And God knows he deserves a goal. He deserves to have his name up in lights because he has been a beacon of hope for this team. He's been an absolute monster in defence, no matter what he's been asked to do. And he's one of the best players we've had this season. So I'm delighted for him to get his first goal in 3 years or whatever it was. And it's funny to look back at that goal that was chalked off him that Tyrone Mings got the touch on. Yeah. So look, I hope he enjoyed it, even if he didn't mean it. It's his goal, and it'll stay that way on the record.
Yeah, it's look, and you know what a week that guy has had. What a week! What the last 2 weeks he's had. Called up to the England squad, making his England debut, starting again for England, and then obviously, scoring a goal, which is something kind of out of the blue for him. and puts him in great stead, I suppose, for this weekend coming against Manchester City. You know, he's going to be the right back against Man City. He's going to have all the confidence in the world. Specifically, I would say, considering he's going to be coming up against that formidable foe, or that familiar foe, and Jeremy Doku that he marked in on international duty as well, not just recently too. So a fair play to Ezri Konsa, and was a legitimate shout for man of the match. I think Ezri Konsa would have been, but he didn't get my man of the match. Who would you have given man of the match to, Paddy?
I think there was a good few put their hands up for it, or should I say, there was more like a few of them were more level than anything else. There was a couple of people I think that need to be spoken about, and I think one of them was Morgan Rogers. We saw little glimpses of power and close control, and just a guy that looks like he's nearly there in that. One of these days he's going to grab the game with the scruff of the neck and either score or create a couple of goals. I thought Douglas Luiz was immense. I thought three of our back four were very good. The elephant in the room, I think, is Alex Moreno, who hasn't been the player that we had at the back end of last season. And look, injuries can do that to people. It can take time to come back into it. But by far and away, Luca Dean is our best choice at left back, and I think he'll start on Wednesday night.
Yeah, so do I. And I agree with what you say as well there. Look, Alex, I suppose watching the game, look, it was these deliveries and stuff, Moreno, that were subpar. Semedo had a bit of joy down there, but I never felt like we were under massive pressure with Moreno in the field. But I do agree with you. I think it is time for Dina to come in. We've been a lot more rock solid with that back four of Dina left, Konsa at the right, and Diego Carlos and Pau Torres, and that's the team that got us joy against Man City and Arsenal previously. We've got Man City and Arsenal coming up in short succession as well. So I think that we play that team and we try and rekindle what we did in around Christmas time as well. We're going to have not obviously have John McGinn back for this game, but we will for the Arsenal game. You know, I think that I think there's still a few wrinkles in.
We'll have him back for Brentford. We'll
have him back for Brentford. Yeah, for sure. And that's going to be good. But I think a legitimate shout for man of the match, I think, as well, was to Yuri Tielemans. That's the best I've seen him play in central midfield for Aston Villa, not in that elevated midfield role. I just thought he ran his absolute nuts off out there. It looked like he was another guy that was after obviously scoring 2 pelters against England for Belgium and came back full of with a chest full of pride. And looked every inch of it when he was out in the field. Same with Morgan Rogers, you mentioned him, scored 2 goals for the England under 20s, came back and was carrying that ball like prime Jack Grealish at times, albeit he didn't let the ball go as much as he probably should have, and something that I'm not really too annoyed about, because while I did ridicule field tilt a moment ago, possession in that part of the field I think was very, very crucial for Aston Villa, and it will be crucial for Aston Villa against teams, because we don't have issues with getting people up in support anymore. And even if he loses the ball in those areas, you know, we can press and win it back. But it's a surer thing to have somebody carry the ball into those areas than it is lump it up and hope that that we get onto the second ball. So I think there's method to the madness sometimes in running infield into the blind alley, as I mentioned on the post-match podcast as well. But you going back to Yuri Tielemans, I thought he was really good. Like that weighted ball for Watkins where Watkins put it wide with just was really, really strange finish. Why he goes high into the outside, I don't know. Why he doesn't go across the goalkeeper. That's the textbook finishes, to go across the goalkeeper. But that ball, the weight of that pass from Yuri Tielemans was absolutely brilliant. And I just thought he was excellent. I'm going to give him a wow, just in case anyone can hear that, because I keep on forgetting that I have my soundboard here as well.
Yeah, and look, we know he blows hot and cold. We know some games are not suiting him when he's in there, but a lot needs to be said about how poor Wolves were in that particular area of the pitch and how they struggled to get between the lines. And I thought he just bossed it and passed the ball around nicely and looked a whole lot more in control than usual. And we obviously know that that's not his best position. He's probably going to have to do it on Wednesday night. I would imagine The only change we see on Wednesday night is if Ollie Watkins doesn't make it, it'll be John Duran, and I think Luca Dean starts on Wednesday night, and that's why Alex Moreno started yesterday or Saturday. Sorry, so they're the only changes that I see. I think Morgan Rogers will be given that opportunity, and boy, would he like to do it against his former club as well. You know, they were the club that brought him to where he is today, so he would absolutely like to be able to put one over on them. But yeah, Tielemans, look, he's done an adequate job in there in the absence of John McGinn, and you know, I think we got to be thankful that we have him there.
Absolutely. And saying that as well, you know, when McGinn comes back into the team, he does get pushed into a further forward position, and then the man I think who did get man of the match and who I would have given man of the match to as well was Moussa Diaby, for that goal and a lot of the great work he did up top. Like, do we move him out of the team now? We've got some good selection problems going on there, Paddy, from the point of view of players playing them into form at the right time. 5 games ago, you could arguably say that some players weren't in the greatest form. Moussa Diaby, Yuri Tielemans probably being 2 of them as well. And then another person that we had as well was Nicola Zaniolo. So, Paddy, pop quiz time. Who had the most shots for Aston Villa in the game against Wolves at the weekend?
Who had the most shots? Well, whoever it was only had 2.
Incorrect. Well, Konza had 2, but he didn't have the most shots.
Well, it's Zaniolo then, isn't it?
It's Zaniolo. Zaniolo came on and had 3 shots on goal, yeah. And he played like his hair was on fire, and I was there for every second of it because I loved it.
We won't talk about Konza's first shot.
No. Konza's first shot certainly wasn't as deft as his second shot. But I don't even know if that was counted as a shot. I think they probably would have had to since it went into the back of the net. But Zaniolo, fair play to him. That's 2 games he's come on. Do you know what? Actually, I think it's probably been, if you go back to it, it's Ajax in the Ajax away. I thought he played pretty okay. Was it Ajax away when Zaniolo played? I thought he played pretty okay. I thought he played. Obviously, he gets that goal against West Ham, where I still think that is one of the most underrated finishes that you will see from an Aston Villa player this season. That Nicola Zaniolo finish is just immense, in stride, hitting it with your left foot when you could swing your right foot at it is just brilliant. And then he comes on and was part of the Legion of Doom himself, and John Duran came in and started crashing into players left, right, and centre, and started making things happen. And fair play to Zaniolo and Duran in that instance there. And you know, you can see that Zaniolo wants to succeed. You can see that magic arm around the shoulder that Unai Emery has. It mightn't work. It mightn't work immediately with all these players, but it's hard to suggest that there's anybody in this team that hasn't had an upturn in form now from Unai Emery. And I know people will say, yeah, but look, that's Zaniolo's best game. You know, he hasn't been great the rest of the season. You take settling in periods for a lot of players, like John McGinn hit the ground running when Unai Emery came in, as did Douglas Luiz. After that, you know, you're looking at players like, we talk about Leon Bailey, we talk about Ezri Konsa to a good degree. We talk about Luca Dean. A lot of people wanted Luca Dean, thought he couldn't defend and wanted him out of the team. You know, a lot of periods prior to Unai Emery coming in. And, you know, you can go on through Ollie Watkins. There was people ready to sell Watkins. There's one of them here, just over here somewhere. Where is he? Over there somewhere. Was ready to get rid of Watkins when Danny Ings is in the team. And that isn't a go at anyone. Like, but what I'm saying is that it's more so a positive on the Unai Emery factor. The fact that, like, at some stage I'd love to know how he manages people. I'd love to know, is he as harsh with some people as he says he is in interviews. Like, he says, oh, I've told him it's his if he wants to take it, but he has to take it, and that's up to him. I don't think it's as straightforward as that. I think there's a lot of mollycoddling he does, and whatever he's doing a great job of it, because the likes of Duran, you know, he had his little wobble kind of from a personal point of view during the start of or during the middle of the season. And then you've Zaniolo, who's had all the pressures of the betting scandals and stuff like that. And hopefully we get 10 good games out of those guys between the end of the year, because they're going to be vital to us. And if anything, if the weekend is anything to go by, then we will get 10 good games out of those guys for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's Unai Emery's style to be mollycoddling players. I've seen a few interviews about Paco. I've only read attempt his surname, the assistant manager. Most recently, Peter Crouch spoke glowingly about him being the best assistant manager he'd ever come across. He's supposed to be an absolute whirlwind at dealing with players and being able to motivate players. So we could be patting him on the back by the end of the season if he gets a tune out of the likes of Zaniolo. And he is obviously a big figure in the dressing room. Obviously not on match day. He's not the kind of guy who's up shouting and roaring on his feet. He just gives that subtle little insight into Unai Emery's ear, and he passes that on, as does we see Austin McPhee on his feet for other reasons. But I think we can safely say that Paco is definitely one of the biggest influences on the players. So I'm hoping that we'll hear some more about him as the season comes to an end.
And that's interesting you mentioned about Paco, because I remember when Unai was announced as manager of Aston Villa, and we were waiting to hear who the like there was lots of rumors that was going to be Fernando Torres was going to be his assistant manager. Do you remember those wild days? I thought there was never going to be anyone other than Paco that was going to be it, because of how respected he is. And you go back to the times of Rafa Benitez winning the Champions League with Liverpool in Istanbul and all that, and all those very, very good years that Liverpool had under Rafa Benitez. There was another man in the dugout apparently that did an awful lot of the work there too. And let's just say that Rafa hasn't been tearing up trees in a lot of the managerial appointments he's had since. And Mr. Paco, I was going to have a go at doing his surname there, but Mr. Paco hasn't been in the dugout either. And once again, look, I suppose you can make correlations, and correlation isn't causation with regards to stuff like that. But Paco is obviously changed, I suppose, or like when Rafa came to English football, he was very progressive and stuff like that. But I'm not quite sure that he's really moved on, and like kind of almost like a Sam Allardyce, unbelievably progressive when he was younger, didn't really change his ways as he moved on, and then just became Sam Allardyce, and now Rafa is kind of Rafa at this moment in time. But it seems Paco broke ranks and has moved on and has become as progressive as has been needed to be to stay in the top the top leagues. And let's not sugarcoat it either. Paco had a couple of stints on his own as a manager as well. They didn't go exactly brilliantly, but himself and Unai have a good synergy there in the dugout, and whatever they're doing, let's just leave them do it. Keep doing what they're doing, because I think we can all appreciate that for 100% sure. And another person I think is going to appreciate what they're doing as well was Kane Kessler-Hayden finally getting his Premier League debut after lots of false dawns, I think, and going out on loan an awful lot. It was great to see him come on at the weekend. It was, we're going to need these players over the next coming weeks. So fair play to Unai for showing that trust in him, and showing that that it's a case of you have to work your way into the team. It's taken him since January to do that, but he got his Premier League minutes. I'm sure we'll see him before the end of the season again.
Yeah, it's important to have, like if you fast forward and pretend that we're 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go on Wednesday night, to be able to bring him in and change the defence to a back five to shore things up is very important, that he has those few minutes under his belt. So fingers crossed that is the case. But he's shown many times he's an able replacement, but he's been made work very hard. Like it's the 1st of April today, so he went nearly 3 months sitting on the bench or in around the squad before he actually got a run. So delighted for him. Reading his Twitter or Instagram, whatever he posted on, he's immensely proud of the fact that he's done it with Aston Villa and not somebody else. So I'm delighted for him. I'm sure that jersey he wore on Saturday evening will be framed and above the mantelpiece to show the grandkids for many years to come, because that was his dream. He's been there since he was 8 years of age. So I'm delighted for him personally for that. And I'm also obviously delighted that we have another option in that department, and an option now that obviously is trusted enough to be given a run.
Yeah, because we're going to need it. He needs to know what he has there. Matty Cash being out for the dreaded 3 weeks. We know 3 weeks in Aston Villa parlance means that could be 2026 at this rate, sometimes the 3 weeks tends to linger. And I wouldn't want to rush Matty Cash back either from a hamstring injury because, as I say, he's a very valuable member of the squad coming into form. And he was just before he got injured. And, we're going to need him down the stretch. So when he's 100% fit to come back, that's when we should play him, and that's when he should be back. But in the interim, we're going to need to see if Ken Kessler can hack it. And I'm absolutely sure he can. Tons of talent, and delighted to see him become another debutant under Unai Emery in this Aston Villa squad this year as well, which is fantastic. Paddy, I know we kind of said before, and we were going to maybe trundle down the road of doing a Man City preview. It's very difficult to do a Man City preview, really, because yes, we're on Monday, the 1st of April. The game is on in 2 days' time. A couple of injuries in the Man City setup, a couple of injuries in the Villa setup, and the two of us are probably going to be talking out our holes, really, when we're trying to figure out what's going on here, because they mightn't have what you call him, Nathan Ake. We mightn't have Ollie Watkins, and I think we might park it for a small bit as well, because look, the City game, I'm of the mindset, and I know that you got given out to by Dean Smith for calling it a free hit before, for calling a game a free hit before, Paddy. But it's not so much a free hit as it is a game of consequence, I think. City are coming off a draw at the weekend against Arsenal in a dour game. I've no reason to believe that we can't set up like Arsenal did. And City kind of showed again at the weekend that if you can keep them as wide as possible and just stifle Erling Haaland, you might be in with a chance. You might be in with a chance. We did it at Villa Park. Let's see if we can do it at the Etihad. I'm not very confident. I'm not confident at all, to be honest with you. But I'm also not hiding behind the couch at the thought of this game. And that just shows how much we've progressed in the last 18 months under Unai Emery.
No, well, there's one reason why I will be hiding behind the couch, and that's because that fucking idiot Roy Keane has got up Erling Haaland's nose 3 days before we play him, and that's really annoyed me. Like,
it was how much money made? Like,
how much money are Sky Sports paying that man to say he looks like a League Two striker? Like, Jesus Christ! What in the name of God? Like, do Sky Sports really think people are going to pay to listen to this drivel?
The thing is, obviously no one believed what Roy Keane was saying, but then you see it 95,000 times across your feed on social media then afterwards going, oh my God, Roy Keane didn't really say this about Erling Haaland. And you're going, no, he said something incredibly silly, and it's and then the walking back of it, the whole, no, it's his work rate. It's his work rate is that. No, it isn't. You go down, you look at any league, you look at a Championship or League One or League Two games over the weekend. If any players break their absolute nuts and get an actual career in those leagues, is because they're not lazy. It's because they're incredibly industrious. It's because they run around like their hair is on fire for 90, 100 minutes. So it's just a bad analogy. It's a bad analogy that his work rate was that of a League Two player. Just a bad analogy.
Yeah, it's immensely disrespectful and in poor taste, I thought, and to be comparing anybody, and look, he's well known for his analogies like that and pissing people off. Kieran rightly says we've got no pressure on us at all. Nobody expects us to get anything, just play our game. And if you cast your mind back to December when we actually did go and beat them at Villa Park, that's exactly what happened. Nobody expected it. We inflicted our game on them. They never laid a glove on us. Never laid a glove on. And it was really unusual to be in Villa Park that night and realize, 60 minutes into the game, that I don't think Man City can score here. I don't think they can lay a glove on us here. And that's for what we've been through for the last 15 years, this is a brilliant, brilliant feeling that we've played on a Saturday night and it hasn't ruined our Easter weekend, which has been part and parcel since this podcast began. But thankfully, everything is just going in the right direction, and we've a world-class manager, world-class training facilities, world-class players in there, and they're just making life so much better and so much easier for us. And I do believe it's a free hit. I know Dean Smith is not.
Yeah, I don't expect us to win on Wednesday.
And the reason it's a free hit is that we've got 4 points out of the last 2 games, and I think that was vital heading into this one. That if we get something out of it, brilliant. We need to go and beat Brentford at the weekend then, because then we've Arsenal waiting in the long grass the following week. So all of these things, if you can just do the job against the teams that we're supposed to beat, or look, we've seen many times. I sat in the City of Manchester Stadium when David Silva went to the referee and went, "That's my goal," and pointing at himself, even though that a VAR had checked it and they didn't. He touched the ball in an offside position when he was deflecting the ball.
I remember that one, yeah.
So, and then we had that goal that they had to change the rules of football for when Tyrone Mings had a fella come from an offside position to take the ball off him.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any luck there whatsoever. Last year we went there 2 days after the Premier League announced that there was 115 charges against Manchester City and got their back up again. So that's what's annoyed me about Roy Keane's comments yesterday. I thought it was pretty pissy thing to do when we've got to play them on Wednesday. So I have no doubt that Erling Haaland, if apparently he's had a knock as well, so we don't know whether he's going to be fit on Wednesday. So if he's going to be there, he's going to be all guns blazing. He'll be knocking fellas out of his way and knocking fellas down, and he'll be the John Duran trying to get himself on the score sheet to prove everybody wrong. And we just didn't need that. That's just my opinion on it.
Bollock says a good thing here as well. You know, with games running out for the teams below us, whatever result is at the week on Wednesday night, if Spurs get no more than a draw against West Ham, I'll be happy. And West Ham are playing some really good football at the moment. You know,
well, they were absolutely done over big time at the weekend as well.
Hugely.
Two penalty decisions there. Like I'm absolutely flabbergasted that either of them were given. And you know, there's something seriously wrong in PGMOL if those two are penalties. And thankfully it wasn't us for a change that's on the end of those.
Yeah, it's like, I suppose the biggest thing with that is, you know, Calvin Phillips is proving to be such a poor signing for them at this minute in time, you know, and it was him again at the weekend. It just was him at the weekend. Like, and yeah, Newcastle obviously having another ACL injury. I said in our pre-match, was in the team sheet tantrum, I think it was, about injuries across the league, and now a lot of other people seem to be talking about injuries across the league. I don't know what we do about it, but it's just a mad occurrence, you know. How many, and to be honest, the league will probably have to look at it, and I hope they don't just do the simple thing of going, "Oh yeah, we'll increase it up to 30-man squads, and you can have 21 people in your match day squad," or whatever the case is. Hope they don't do that, because it's player welfare that should be thought of, you know. And if there is some correlation somewhere, because the reason I say that the Premier League needs to look at it is because you'll get into the dying embers of a league season and games will just become incredibly meaningless because the amount of people will be out injured. Like, realistically speaking, Wolves playing an 18-year-old kid in his debut because all the rest of their forwards are injured is bad luck in a lot of ways. But also, I can't think of a team this season who hasn't had an injury crisis, you know, and I'd love to know what the statistics are based on that. And I don't know what the reason is for it, and I don't know how you fix it, but I think it is a conversation point for people that are a lot more intelligent than me, for sure. In those areas,
there's a lot of people have had their say on it. Where, like, you're talking about the weather in the winter, people are training on AstroTurf pitches, or 5G pitches. They're playing on hybrid pitches. A lot of those pitches have like 30% synthetics running through them. Are they having an issue on people turning and their studs catching in or how they're landing and whatever? There's lots of things that need to be addressed. But I think number one that needs to be addressed is the meaningless international games that are basically choking up the season on us.
Well, I'll tell you something as well, Paddy, and you're right in what you say there, but I think it was John Townley had it in the Claret and Blue podcast. Villa have played 4 extra games this season because of the massive amounts of injury time and added time that are happening this year as well. You know, how many games this year have Villa have players been on the field for like 110, 115 minutes? Now that's a long period of time. You know, if you're playing 4 free games a year, you know, that too.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Anyway,
And look, I'm not, and I'll never argue about that, because if that injury time is warranted, then it should be played, because it's cut out a lot of messing in the game as well. The amount of time people are spending on the ground, even our own famous Emi Martinez isn't even doing it anymore, because they realise, hang on a minute, we're putting extra strain on our players. You know, you're on your feet for 90 minutes, you're moving around, you're constantly thinking. It's the mentality of it as well, that when you're 1-0 up going into injury time and suddenly a board goes up with 12 minutes, that's the last thing you need. 100% the last thing you need. So yeah, it's definitely another factor in that people are, lethargic and picking up injuries and putting extra strain on the body for sure.
And as David Dwyer says, the ramifications of a Winter World Cup, is still, the quick turnarounds and stuff like that. That certain players had. Yeah. Anyway, we won't solve it today on a Monday night.
Absolutely not.
No, for sure we won't, and I'm sure they won't solve it for another 5 to 10 years to come. Anyway, knowing the way that the wheels of football turn so slowly, but 552 people in here tonight, and we want to thank every one of you for your time on this bank holiday Monday. Here it is in Ireland. I think it is in the UK as well. I don't know what it is in anywhere else in the world.
Most part of the world, I would imagine.
Most parts of the world. Yeah. But thank you so much for your time as always. As I say, we can never, ever, ever give you your time back to you again. All we can do is give you thanks and praise for coming to look at us. Also, yapcity.com / for the love of Paul McGrath. Tickets are still available for our live show on the 19th of April. We're very much hoping to be able to announce some guests soon. Actually, I suppose we might as well talk a small bit about that, Paddy. I can't remember whether we did this already, but we had a specific themed evening set up, and just unfortunately and completely understandably, don't get me wrong here or anything, but Chris Nichols' funeral is on the exact same day, so we had to pivot from that, which is completely understandable. No, it's just so happened that was the day that it fell. So we are, and now that I'm saying this, Paddy, we did talk about this already. I think it was in the Wolves preview, but we are efforting. Yeah, we hope to be in a position to announce some guests soon. But tickets are available still on yapcity.com, and tickets will as I say, if anybody is looking for any tickets or anything like that, yapcity.com for the love of Paul McGrath, you'll be able to find them there. We'll be around the Friday night and the Saturday night and the Sunday for the match. So if we can't make it down on the Friday night, we'll be sure to be somewhere on the Saturday. We'd love for you guys to come in and just chat to anyone who wants to be around, because we're going to enjoy ourselves that weekend, put it that way, for sure.
And look, it's going to be, because of how this has fallen, it's going to be a great opportunity to get to meet everybody that listens to the show and watches the show from Birmingham. So as you rightly say, we will be around all evening on Friday evening, and we'll be around on the Saturday, and we'll tell everybody.
Absolutely. And Mark Wood is going to be DJing as well in the night as well. So if you are a fan of Mark, pop in as well. He's the main guest. All the rest of us are just chancers.
He is so far.
He is so far. Yeah. Mark, you might be double jabbing that night. You might be double jabbing the way things are going. But yeah, listen, thanks so much everybody for your time. Also as well, Paddy, I think it's also fair to come in alone.
Peter, there'll be many people there on their own, and you're not alone. You're amongst friends. Everyone that's going to be there is there because they're part of our community. So you're more than welcome. Absolutely.
Treated as an Aston Villa speed dating round. That's what I would say. You get 15 seconds to talk to every Aston Villa fan inside there and see how many friends you can make. That's the way I would look at it. Exactly. For sure. Paddy, before we go actually as well, and I just wanted to address something as well. You guys might have seen on Twitter on Friday, was it, Paddy? I think it was Friday. We put up a post about Gordon Cowans and his family. Just wanted to address that as well. Obviously, very unfortunately, Gordon was there was a lot of news came out about Gordon Cowans recently, and Paddy, you were reached out to by members of the family, members of people who were close to the family, and sometimes on Twitter things can grow legs and can move around, and then obviously kind of metastasize and move and mutate, through the course of things. So
It all came from a statement that was made at Villa Park on Wednesday night at the anniversary of the 30th anniversary of the 94 winning team, and somebody was misinformed to the extent of how ill that Gordon was. He's obviously doing very well. Obviously these things need to be managed. So if it's a case that he needs some care or attention or whatever that is, you know, many people of the 500 people in here know somebody who has been through this horrible illness, and it's a horrible thing to happen. And you know, a man who I've given out about for many years, Phil Dowd, we should mention, has you know, developed another debilitating illness, and I wish him well, because nobody wants to see anybody sick, regardless of how much you give out about him. But look, all we'll say is, you know, the statement went out. We didn't write any of that. That came from a spokesperson through the family, and it was just to reassure people that Gordon was doing well. And then we got to see Gordon in the flesh with Unai Emery, which was, you know, having had all the questions being thrown at me Friday because of the statement, I was delighted to see him there with Unai Emery, and I'm sure everybody was very delighted and full of love to see him in Villa Park watching two teams that he played for on Saturday night. So such a lovely guy as well. Gordon is one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. So and still in good fettle and good health. So long may that continue for many years.
Absolutely. I can't add anything onto that other than long may you fight it, Gordon. And you know, it's great to absolutely see you at Villa Park at the weekend, for sure, 100%. And I think we will leave it on that note. Everybody, once again, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We'll see how what comes over me tomorrow. We might do a little Man City preview, very short one. I'll probably be here on my own, I think, Paddy, because you've daddy duties tomorrow. You've daddy duties tomorrow afternoon, so I might just pop on or something after the press conference. We'll see what way the wind is blowing. But we will be back with a team sheet tantrum.
A day's work to do tomorrow afternoon, Neil.
You've a day's work to do, exactly. Yeah.
And then I've daddy duties. My daughter has a match, so I have to go to that tomorrow evening.
Exactly.
But, yeah. Just to clarify, in case my boss is watching.
yeah. But we'll be back with team sheet tantrum and post match for Man City game, and then onwards towards Brentford at the weekend, and then we've Lille the weekend after, and then the week after, and then we've so on. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. And if this is your first time tuning in, consider hitting the subscribe button at the bottom. Costs you nothing to do it, and also hit a thumbs up there on your way out just to like the stream and kick the algorithm into full throttle so that other people can get to see us. They might like us, they might hate us, but if they don't see us, they'll never know. That's the beauty about the internet. But thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday afternoon. Villa winning is always a good way to spend a Monday afternoon, but we will be back again for the Man City game, and all that's left to say is up to Villa.
Up to Villa.